astrological time. So we've got some kind of issue here that now and again he just want to kill his wife. During his stints in prison, it was reported his wife often stayed with him to care for him. Edwards and his wife had immigrated from England in 1872, and they settled in Tararua village, and he worked on the railways, but it was also sent money from home, which he often spent on booze. So again, I keep wondering what kind of booze he was drinking. Whether it was some kind of home distilled stuff, something dynamite, something that would kill you. On one occasion, he put it. This is a serious guy, by the way. We may be laughing a little bit, or I may be laughing a little bit about it, but he actually put a keg of gunpowder under his wife's bed and endeavoured to explode it. The poor woman was shrieking in her agony and terror because she got burned, and on several occasions he had presented a loaded gun at her with the intention of shooting her, a newspaper reported at the time. It is a word, says Jenny, used in the old days. Thank goodness. How I wouldn't want to be guilty of, bad England. So anyway, on the night before she was killed, all accounts say that Mary was in good spirits despite her husband's struggles, and nobody seemed to think that anything was going to go wrong immediately. In her conversation, she told a witness that her husband was not well. She said he had hid away his gun and also the slashing hook. Oh my gosh. But Edwards had found the latter again. Mrs. Edwards was in good spirits and was laughing as she talked. So it doesn't sound very much fun, does it? She's like, I had to hide his gun and I had to hide his slashing hook because he's going a bit doolally. Following his arrest, Edwards explained Following his arrest, Edwards explained he had killed his family because he heard a large crowd gathering outside his house. So definitely psychologically disadvantaged, should we say? Is that a good way to put that?
That's a little.
He also said, I had very little sleep for 4 nights before the murder. I was all right on Sunday morning, but towards evening I got strange fancies in my head. I fancied I heard a crowd of people outside threatening to burn me and my family alive. I then got a piece of firewood and got it ready. I could not stand to see them burnt alive. On July 15th, 1884, at the Napier prison, he was hanged to death. And I love that term. I know it sounds gruesome or whatever, but hanged to death. I mean, crikey, you wouldn't want to hang them just till their neck was sore, right? A few metres from the courtyard where the hangings took place still remains a small grave with his initials on it. They were called the Ormondville murders, by the way, so it's kind of an interesting thing. He was also buried, as prisoners were, they were buried in the prison, inside the actual walls, and they were buried standing up. And on another note, on another prison, there's a prison in English, and I've got a feeling it's Nottingham, but I could have that wrong. I did a show about it one day, because they took all of the executions for all of the inmates over the years, and they turned that area into a car park. So the car parks here, this is like staggering to me, the car parks on top of their graves, and each of the car parks has the name of the person who's buried under it. And I thought, that's a bit macabre. That's a bit macabre.
That is creepy, man.
Just a tad macabre, right? It's like, oh, okay, I'm now sitting on top of the space where, John Lewis, whatever. Yes, it is. Totally agree. That's probably better to have them standing up so you can only park on their head or whatever. So there's, I'll put a picture of. I'll put a picture of that. You'll see that there's an actual, a stone there, and there are only 4 there for those that were executed. I couldn't tell you how many people would have been buried there that were inmates that committed suicide and died naturally. I'm pretty sure they stayed inside the prisons for burials, and I think there's still a certain amount of that in some places, right?
Wow, that's weird.
Interesting.
Yeah, they don't seem to, want, or they certainly didn't used to. Now it might be different, but they didn't used to take them out to bury them because they weren't allowed to be buried in cemeteries and in graveyards and consecrated ground because they were, evil. They were considered to be lost souls, so they weren't allowed to go there.
Yeah, but how do you bury someone standing up, man? I never heard that before.
Well, us Kiwis...
You have to dig a deeper hole.
Yeah, you do. Yes, you do. I get that.
Because usually they go 6 feet under, right?
Yeah, you gotta kick him up there if they're too tall. Oh, the guy's 7 foot. Let's cut his knees off.
Well,
Make him shorter.
there's an interesting thing about that, because usually they actually have to dig down at least 6 feet to lay them down. So yes, but it would be a narrower hole as well. So it might be easier for 2 guys to do a deeper, narrower hole than a wider, you know what I mean? A wider, deep hole, if that makes sense.
I think that they were drinking the wacky juice doing that.
I think the idea of burying them upright, though, was just to conserve space. Nothing else. Not a...
Or time for digging a grave, because you have to dig more if you're going 6 feet wide too, right?
Well, there's that, but there's also, like, there's a space constraint. You know, there's a prison and it has X amount of space around the outside, and that's it. Some of that has to be used for other reasons, and of course, I would suggest that you can't afford to have all of this space. I'm sure, too, I'd read somewhere about a prison, and I think this was in England as well, I could be a bit wrong, but they were burying their prisoners on top of each other anyway, so...
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's just a space. I know it's about...
Conservation, huh?
Well, as far as they're concerned, if you want to go back to the 1800s, as far as they are concerned, these people are evil, right? They're there because they're not even human in their minds. So it's a whole different construct, I guess.
The human mind.
Yeah. And there's a lack of interest in thinking of them as human beings, I suppose, from a legal perspective. You know, it's sort of like keeping them at all is a hassle, not, you know. So, I find it quite an interesting thing. The Napier prison itself is a very interesting building. I'm going to talk about the Mount Eden prison the next time we round this out as well and come back to haunted spaces or even, you know, difficult places that leave a legacy. Because sometimes the legacy isn't about people that hanged or died, and Mount Eden prison is right slap bang in the middle of Auckland City now, right? And so when you look at this, you'd go over the highway, over the motorway, and you look down, because there's flyovers now, and you look down and you can see this prison down there. And every time you look at it, you're reminded of how old that building is and how imposing, it really is imposing. They were definitely designed to be imposing. So I always think that's quite an interesting thing, because there's other types of energy aside from death and aside from, you know, being hung or whatever your chosen method of killing people is. There's the energy of unhappy people, right? A whole pile of angry, unhappy, and back.
The anger, the negative energy,
yeah, for sure.
The residue of it, forget it.
Yeah, and then you've got that whole, you know, these guys didn't get terms the way we have it now. You know, if they're told you're going to prison for 15 years, you go to prison for 15 years. That's it, you stay there. Nobody's coming to get you out. It's not happening. There's not going to be 10 appeals, and there's not going to be parole. You know, there's none of that. It's like 15 years, 20 years. So these people could be quite desolate as well. They didn't have TVs or internet. They didn't have rehabilitation programs, training, and libraries. They're just hard yards. They have to work to survive while they're in prison, I guess, you know. So I was always very conscious of the energy of that prison right slap bang in the middle of a city. And I mean right up close. We're not talking out in the suburbs. This is in the city. And so I always think that's another thing too when it comes to hauntings of old prisons like Napier Prison. And the fact that it was an orphanage, we can go into that another time. We don't have time today. And a psychic ward as well. There's got to be a bit of doolally stuff, you know, if you are sensitive to it, it might be easy for you to pick up on that and feel that. But as we go forward, we're going to move on to our mystery fact or fiction. And poor old Dreda's been trying to give us this one for weeks.
I know, I know.
Yeah, so funny. Fire away, love. Finally. Yeah, now you got it.
Fire away.
I'm going to bring in the Don D.B. Cooper.
Yoo-hoo.
And he is, Don Cooper is one of the pseudonyms this guy used when he hijacked going 727 aircraft northwest of the United States.
Yep.
In airspace between Portland, Oregon, and Seattle, Washington. On the afternoon of November 24, 1971, this guy purchased his one-way ticket and using his alias Dan Cooper. But what happened? He actually extorted $200,000 back then, like worth $1.2 6 million, whatever, in 2019. So what he does, he just takes, but this one has not been solved yet. It's not an unsolved mystery. They do not know who Don Cooper is. Some people think that he could be one of the FBI agents. They still don't know who. It's still under investigation. They stopped investigating him in 2016.
Oh.
But they say if you have any evidence, if you have evidence of his merging. And so what he does, he comes and he goes and sits in the seat 18C. So he's actually telling the aircraft how to fly, how high, and all that. I'm not going to read the story, but I already read it, but I'm just going to explain it. So he tells the pilot how high to go, and what he wants. So he takes one of the stewardess and he says, sit beside me. And he goes, I have a note. And he just hands her a note and she puts it in her pocket. And she said, look at that note. And he goes, I have a bomb. And he has a suitcase and she said, can I see it? She goes, and he goes, yep, it's right here. And said, he goes, I want $200,000 and I want 4 parachutes. So he's telling the aircraft to go into the next airport and refuel. So the pilot tells everybody that they're having mechanical difficulties, so he gets everybody out. So he asks for parachutes because he has that many people on board, how many parachutes he has. So what he does before he jumps, with the money and all that, he actually cut the strings off 2, so he only jumps himself, but they have not found his body or anything. But back in 2000, what year? So a few years later, there's this boy that finds a bag of money full of 20. So he wants all his money in $20 bills. So this guy finds some money when he was fishing with his dad in a river. All these old $20 bills.
Was it all of it?
No, just a little bag. So he had knapsacks of it. So it's a little bag of money he finds. But the body of this guy has never been found. They do not know who he is. Based on the way he was telling how to fly the aircraft, he had done it before. He sounds like 007 because I want a bourbon and soda.
Yeah.
Sorry. What was that?
That was a kookaburra for our Australian friends having a laugh. Having a laugh. Just having a laugh, yeah.
That's cute. Thank you. But yeah, he orders a bourbon and soda. He sits with her, and then they ask her what kind of guy he was. And he was really nice and all this stuff. I think he was like acting really polite, not nervous, not anything, knowing what he was doing. Don't bring the plane after certain feet. I'm going on this side. Then he jumps off the parachute. But what he does, he cuts the strings off the other ones and leaves them aboard. So nobody, and they were 5 fighter jets actually fall on the aircraft, and nobody saw him leave or go down or anything like that. So,
wow. Mind you, I suppose, was it nighttime? Was it nighttime? Yeah. Yeah. If it wasn't nighttime. If he didn't have any lights, it would be pretty hard for them to see him. Do you think?
Yeah, but I don't know. They couldn't see him. Nothing. So the Air Force was going. All of them. They're like following him. They probably should be able to see him in radar. It was raining, they say, but they think he got killed when he landed somewhere, or landed in a river. They have no idea what happened.
Wow.
Some people think he was an FBI agent. Some people think it was somebody from military, so they have no idea who he is. They still do not know who he is. They still search for him. They're still looking for evidence. So if you have any.
Yeah, what year was that?
1970 something.
Oh my goodness. So he's dead then.
Oh, he was 1971, yeah.
Yeah, so he's probably dead. Be. Yeah, or he'd be very, very old, man.
He would be old now, but there's a guy who actually told his wife I am D.B. Cooper before he passed away.
Yeah, is there now?
What?
Is there now? That's interesting.
Yeah, he goes, as he was laying in his deathbed, this guy tells his wife that I am D.B. Cooper.
Ah, interesting. And do they believe him or not?
No, I don't think so, because the search still continues, right?
Okay.
And they're still looking for evidence. Yeah, because that's a lot of money, right? Back then, all $20 bills. Some was found in a river, so I do not know what. And then they were scouting and they were looking and searching and rescue and found